Queenie had a peep over the right shoulder, and she's going to blow them away. But Northerly, Danny Miller, pumping away, and Northerly wins the railway.
Welcome to Racing Rewind. Our panel will review and digest the Prime WA Saturday Thoroughbred meeting from 24 hours earlier. If you have an opinion, send a text to 0427 789 571.
Galaxy Star draws away from them. Pike Magician.
Yes, welcome back. It is Racing Rewind, and Michael and Lochie are in the studios. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, boys. Good morning, listeners. Great to be in the studio. Much warmer in here than it is out there, and same could be said about yesterday afternoon's meeting at Belmont Park. It was very, very chilly, and thankfully we got out of the meeting without getting too wet.
Oh, speak for yourself. There was a little bit of drizzle for the yard man later in the day, but...
Get off it. No, there wasn't.
There was a little
bit of races.
Oh, I got spat on a couple of times from some of the punters. No, it was getting a little bit cold, a little bit wet, but that was okay, mainly on the walk out. But, geez, it was bitterly cold. I think that was the talk about the whole day, wasn't it? Every single person you spoke to just said, how bloody cold is this?
I know, it was a taste of Victoria, a taste of Melbourne, but no.
I think we
got through in the end.
I think we saw some pretty nice performances.
Yeah, I agree with that. There was some good horses that went around there yesterday.
Yeah.
I think that's almost been the theme of this Belmont Park winter. So often we speak about Belmont Park and winter racing in WA being a lull. In fact, everywhere in Australia, Sydney and Melbourne are the exact same, but I think almost every single Saturday meeting we see 1 to 3 types that we're really keen to follow throughout the summer carnival. And for mine, I think Wind in the Line that we'll preview, I should say, after the first race is the flag bearer for mine after yesterday's meeting.
Yeah, really, really impressive win that was, no doubt about that. And also Petruka was very good later in the day. But just back on Wind in the Lion, the 2-year-olds we've seen of late, a late missile I'm really keen on as a 3-year-old in the spring. September born, of course. Wind in the Lion yesterday, so probably...
West Star. So the past month we've seen some pretty serious 2-year-olds be unveiled as late season 2-year-olds that should come back in the spring and really measure up. But Petruka was really good there yesterday in the Belmont Oaks. You'd think she'd be hard to beat in the Belmont Classic. Cool Memory took out the Aquanita Stakes. Was gifted the lead in the end. They went quite steady. The first 1,400 metres was about 9 lengths slower than the Oaks yesterday. But also Final Siren, big win. The money was so strong for him for the 48 hours leading into that race, and 3 wide, no cover, did all of the work and still won. It was a win of a pretty handy sprinter. Out of the steward's room, there was one suspension yesterday, and that was Jason Whiting received a careless riding suspension for 7 days. And
Could be the wildest stat in Australian racing for the weekend.
His first suspension since 2015, 9 years. So your mum isn't going to be happy, Marty.
No, she won't be.
And how many rides since his last suspension?
5,755.
Fish, come on. Jeez, you've let yourself go there, Fish.
Well.
Undisciplined.
Yeah. No, he's a beauty.
That's one of the good guys. That is unbelievable. That's got to be up there with a record for having not been suspended in your last 5,000 rides.
Someone will have the record book somewhere.
Surely.
Ernie Manning.
We'll find out.
Ernest?
Yeah.
Give us a text. Now, what about the pattern of the day, Michael?
Well, I thought on throughout the day it was very even, and then when I started to review yesterday's meeting, I was thinking to myself, maybe the rail wasn't the place to be, because a lot of the winners were and even the leaders were sort of fanning off a little bit, and then they were sort of 2 or 3 horses off the fence, 3 and 4, sort of 5 horses off the fence even, but then we saw some horses late in the day proved that to be incorrect. Sensational went right along the rail. Even a horse like Rogue's Point, first up at 50-1, led and stuck on to finish 3rd. So I think the track played really well again, which is becoming a common theme for however many Saturdays in a row now.
All right, race number 1, and the aforementioned 2-year-olds went around in the Schweppes Plate over the 1,000 metres.
Free Scenic George as they set sail for home. Wind in the line behind those, looking for a bit of daylight at this stage. The same for Daytona Peak. Cash flows immediately under pressure. Live Lucky, and over on the inside, Nicky Motor still going together, but now Wind in the line gets around their heels and quickly tackles them, reaches the lead. Arduet runs on further back, but boy, look at this go. Wind in the line opening right up there, sprints away with a brilliant debut win. Wind in the line might be something a little bit special under the hood there with Wind in the line. Beat Arduet. Gee, a nice run. Nickel play from well off them after being slowly away right down the outskirts.
Okay, this win of Wind and the Line, written by 2-year-old gelding from the Casey Yard, Wally Daly owns, and off a very good trial, took it to the races and was most impressive.
Absolutely, just an out-and-out professional Wind and the Line, a $200,000 ready-to-run purchase. So he was clearly well thought of at the sales, and you can understand why. That was an outstanding performance. He began well, showed good early speed, was just in behind the leading pair, but unfortunately for Chris Parnham and Wind in the Line, the speed really slackened mid-race, and you could see plenty of jockeys had to ease and restrain, and that actually put Chris in an awkward position in a pocket in behind the speed. But to the horse's credit, he just handled that so well, and when the gap eventually came, he burst clear late. In the end, he's won by 3 lengths, and he only really got clear the final 200, I'd say. It was as dominant performance as I've seen throughout these winter months, and for mine, he is the number 1 seed heading towards the Summer Carnival, and I suspect an interesting discussion point moving forward is that Chris Parnham now has the ride on Wind in the Line, and he also had the ride on a really progressive 2-year-old like West Star. So clearly, Chris is going to have a decision to make moving forward throughout the Summer Carnival.
Yeah, absolutely. We really echo all of those sentiments. Nice horse in the yard, not too big, just a nice mid-sized running type, strong enough, and geez, that trial form. We put the writing on the wall in the trial, but that last 75 to 100 metres when he exploded away was pretty impressive. Only good horses can do that on debut. Arduet was a good run, finished off really well down the middle part of the track, finishing off from the back, and Scenic George has been going along quite well without a huge amount of luck in some of his races. This prep, he was had to take off early and was 3 deep the trip for a part of yesterday, still ran 3rd, and he's still a maiden. He could come back next prep as a 3-year-old maiden and all of a sudden just go through your midweek classes and become a pretty nice horse. Nickel Play, very nice debutant. Very, very nice debut, I should say, the way he finished off over the late stages, ran home in the fastest closing splits outside of the winner. I'll let you touch on your horse, Nicky Motor, Lockie, because I want to touch on Steve Wolf's horse, who on paper ran 8th of 9. I think you could make a good case this horse should have run 2nd. Watching the replay, he was absolutely bolting in behind them, held up, didn't get through till late, and after the line, he was pretty much level with the rest of the field. It was a really, really nice debut. He's the full relation to Red Can Man, and was a big horse as well. In the yard beforehand, I just wrote down on my paper, definite 3-year-old type, so look out for him next preparation when he strengthens up a bit. I love the run of Nickel Play, completely agree with you. She'll be one of my horses to follow on Nicky Motor, and also Daytona Pete to a lesser extent. I just think that things didn't really go to plan for Nicky Motor yesterday. She wasn't quite as quick out of the machines the first 20 metres that she probably needed to be, and from there had to absorb some pressure. And then even post-race, Willie said to me that maybe he should have let her stride that little bit more, and I guess the flow-on effect of that was a horse like Daytona Pete, who was on her back, had nowhere to go. And even when you look at the replay, at the top of the straight, there's probably only 4, maybe 5 lengths between first and last in a 9-horse field. So clearly that didn't go too hard throughout. Wouldn't be dropping off her moving forward. I just think that next preparation, she might put it all together and you'll see quite a nice filly.
Okay, so Wind in the Line, you're saying could be a big player during the spring. Would you think it'll be stepping up to the mile, or more keep it to the 12, 14, somewhere around there?
It's really hard to tell, and that's the question after all of these 2-year-olds win. I think with the exception of an Elite Missile, who clearly looks like he wants further, the other 3, that being Wind in the Line, West Star and September Born, all of them look sharp enough to be competitive in a Placid Arc at 1,200 metres. But I feel like every single set of connections, all the trainers of these progressive 3-year-olds will have them up in work at the right time. They might go first up into a Max Simmons at the 1,000, and then they might stretch out to 1,200 of a Belgravia, and then beyond that, perhaps a Faritha for the boys or a Burgess Queen for the girls. And at that point, they make the decision as to whether they come back to the Placid Arc of 1,200 metres or step up to a Guineas.
Yeah, sort of breeding's more speed, 12-14 on that Wind in the Line. So the one that you like, Nickel, playing God.
Exactly. She looks like an out-and-out champion fillies horse.
Beautiful run, wasn't it?
Yep.
First up off
1,000 metres, way too short.
1,000 metres, way too short.
And blinkers on in the trials. Wouldn't
Took 'em
surprise
off.
me if they go back on next start. I think she'll be really hard to beat next start.
Over further. Yeah.
Yes, race number 2, the Tab Touch West Speed Platinum Handicap over the 1,200 metres.
The inside of it with Probity and tries to shoulder her way into the clear. Then Pearly Nugget, Snazzler and King Sicario. I'm a Single Gal came back to them quickly. The first to grab it, Capricorn Man. The Great Hoya now joins in. 2 lengths, Russian Sniper being tested. The Great Hoya, Capricorn Man though. They're together down inside the last 150. The Great Hoya, Capricorn Man. Probity, Russian Sniper. They're coming at them both sides. The Great Hoya gets the head in front though. Bob of the heads and the Great Hoya. The Great Hoya from Capricorn Man, I fancy. Tight go third. Russian Sniper might be from Probity.
Yes, it was Russian Sniper from Probity. I've got to say, the money for the Great Hoya. They've got the cash here. It was about 16s in.
At a good price as well. So clearly some really good bets landed there for the Great Hoya. I thought this was a fantastic ride from Braden Garth. Clearly the Great Hoya was the first horse to step yesterday afternoon, but the speed was on early in the form of I'm a Single Gal and also Capricorn Man. So Braden just elected to ease out of that speed battle, popped off the fence, ensured that the horse had plenty of galloping room to ensure that he could make a move into the race when he needed to. And from there, I thought that smart move early on in the race was what won Braden the race.
Yeah, 100%. Really nice ride there. I think his mum owns the horse as well, so that's a nice little family result. Capricorn Man was better yesterday. He was a beaten favourite at his previous start 4 weeks prior, but yesterday seemed a more effective horse. Perhaps that soft 6 track, the start prior, just wasn't to his liking because it was a firmer surface yesterday and he was much better. Russian Sniper, 23rd start of the prep and he's just going enormous still. But Probity's a horse I'd be keen to follow this prep. He went around a good price yesterday, dropped a lot of points in his first prep for the Websters last time in, and he's an out-and-out Belmont Park horse. He's an out-and-out mudlark. So yesterday on a soft 5, he was a bit unlucky too. He was held up at different stages and probably should have run in the top 3, but was beaten narrowly. What was he beaten in the end? Less than a length still. I think around that West Speed Platinum grade. He's not eligible for graduations because he's already won a couple of Saturdays, but he's already won a 3-year-old 62 plus and a 66 plus all age. So I'd be shocked if Probity didn't win a race or 2 in West Speed Platinum grade this prep.
There wouldn't be many horses in that boat that aren't eligible for a graduation but are eligible for West Speed Platinum handicap. Another horse that I think we need to touch upon is Pearly Nugget. I quite fancied her chances yesterday. I just thought it was a really nice setup for her earlier on in the campaign. She was racing on speed, and then last start we saw her take a sit in behind a good solid speed. She had that set up yesterday. In fact, had the back of Russian Sniper, but really failed to give any type of impression late. So for mine, she was disappointing, but I think her body of work this campaign suggests to me that she's better than what she showed yesterday.
Yeah, watching the replay, especially the last 200, she looked a bit one-paced. She didn't actually lose any ground. She just stayed where she was. So perhaps she might be a bit better horse on speed now, but she definitely was disappointing. Outside of that, I thought King Sicario was good late, but probably may need a bit further and just dictated to by his racing pattern and the draw yesterday.
Race number 3, the George Reddy Memorial Handicap over the 2,100 metres.
outside of Falcon Trader. In behind them, Candlelight's Upper. Here comes Kisses from Kelly, though. And down the outside, Kisses from Kelly's about to gather the leaders. Filthy Habits with a kick at the 250 from Falcon Trader. Kisses from Kelly, 2-length strike now. Here's Antique Miss from back in the field erupting. She's coming with a great run. 100 left to go. Antique Miss sweeps up, grabs the lead from Kisses from Kelly and starts to edge away clear. Goes home, too good, cool ride on a cool day. Antique Miss beat Kisses from Kelly. Filthy Habits third from Strike Now.
Tell us about this win of Antique Miss from Kisses from Kelly. They were the two.
Do you reckon Darren was a bit cold?
He said he's got a 5-bar heater up there, mate.
A cool ride on a cool day. Certainly was. Antique Miss, really stylish win, I thought, stepping out to 2,100 metres for the first time. And I thought it was an interesting insight post-race from both Bob Peters and Willie Pike that Bob said to Willie before he was legged aboard by Mickey G that this horse is just bred well and truly to get this trip. So, and you go back and watch the ride of Willie Pike. He goes back almost straight to the inside, just switches her straight off, and from there she relaxed beautifully. And then he just waited and waited and waited, and she was a mile off them at the top of the straight, but to the mare's credit, she just found the line so well. Her final 200 metres was dominant. In the end, she's won by a length, but if she had drawn a gate, she almost, I think you can argue that she could have won that race by 2-3 lengths. It's just another horse for Bob Peters and Michael Grantham that have really turned the corner in the last few months, and I can't see anything really in this grade being able to beat her moving forward, provided that she stays sound and stays in work throughout these winter months.
Yeah, super win. She was still dead last with about 250, 300 to go, so the way she rounded them up was super impressive. Got in with 57.5, so she probably goes to 59.5 now and should be pretty competitive wherever she goes throughout the winter. Kisses from Kelly's been a marvel this winter. He backed up again. He's had about 4 runs in the space of 3 weeks or something, I think, Kisses from Kelly, but just continues to race really, really well. But I'm still keen to follow the third horse, Filthy Habits. I thought that was a good run yesterday. He's appears, to my eye anyway, appears to have strengthened up a bit from his last preparation and probably a bit heavier than what he was last prep. And yesterday he was only, what was he, third up into the campaign? Yep. And the first time after over a trip, I think he'll improve a fair bit off that. And on-pace stayer through these winter months is just a really a foolproof type of horse. I think he can run each-way races wherever he goes, and he might even be a horse that can progress all the way through to a Kalgoorlie Carnival even and be on speed there in the Goldfields through the round. Strike Now was another good run. Hasn't run a bad race since stepping up to the staying trips, and outside of that, I think Sluicebox had his chance. Falcon Trader stepped up to a trip for the first time and was probably found wanting late, perhaps better suited back to a mile, and no luck for Destiny, who was 3 wide, no cover the trip. Interestingly, recalled. It says in the Stewards report, his trainer has now advised that gelding will be retired. So last time we'll see recalled, but nothing more to report outside of that.
Have they got big plans for Antique Miss at all or not?
I don't think so. Not at this stage anyway. Yeah, she's only a 73 rater before yesterday's win, so
unassuming type too, not a overly big horse.
Yeah.
Quite small, compact, but just gets the job done.
She's not in the ratings band where they really need to give too much thought to setting her for anything in particular, I would have thought. I just think she can continue to go through her grades and she'll end up telling you.
See where you end up.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see jockey-wise, because I'm sure William Pike would be really keen to stay on her in this grade, but because she's a bit of a smaller type, she's actually been ridden by claiming apprentices at 3 of her last 4 starts. She'll go to 59.5 next start. It'll be interesting to see whether Willie stays on her or whether they elect to claim, because I'm sure if he's aboard her, she'll be pretty popular in betting wherever she goes next.
I'm sure in Bob's wisdom he'll find a 72 plus or a 78 plus for her, and Willie Pike will be on.
Race number 4, the Key Clean Handicap. This was over the 1,200 metres.
Guard the safety. Amber worked on coming into the turn. Starring Knight to the outside. Defiant Diorite, Mocha Dream well back. Memory Parade and Vitalise. Rogue's Point though at the 300 lead, but now under pressure from Siberian Siren, about to get on equal terms. Mistrakova. D'Amber can't pick up for the moment. At the 150, Siberian Siren reaches the lead. Now D'Amber starting to put in strongly. Over on the outside, D'Amber's coming at Siberian Siren. They'll go to it. There won't be much in it. They hit the line together. Siberian Siberian Siren held on narrowly. Siberian Siren has scrambled home from D'Amber. Down the outside, Memory
Okay,
Parade
continues a good day for Sean and Jake Casey. Chris Parnham also having a good day with Siberian Siren just holding out D'Amber.
Nice win. She put the writing on the wall with her recent trial at Lark Hill. And what I love most about this filly is that she just appears versatile. We've seen her find the line really well off the speed, but Chris Parnham yesterday elected to use her early gate speed with the winkers going on to offset that awkward draw. Settled outside the leader in Rogues Point within the first 50 metres of the race, and from there just travelled really, really nicely. Perhaps didn't put them away as well as what it looked like she was travelling, but she was first up there yesterday, so perhaps just needed the run late. But really nice win, and Rogues Point, the third horse, he was the leader of the race.
Following him in Broome?
Yes, I was about to say I hadn't made a Broome horse a horse to follow ever on this show in the last 3 or 4 years. I made Universal Playboy one last week, and I'm making Rogues Point one this week.
Has it been confirmed that they're going to Broome, Anthony and Simone?
From what I understand, yes.
Wow, it'd be great to see those horses up there with their metro form, that's for sure. But nice filly, Siberian Siren, really nice type of a horse to look at. Trialled up brilliantly, super run last prep and running second in the Magic Millions, and still eligible for these graduation type of races. I think she can have a pretty nice campaign this time. And she did sort of tire late noticeably, which perhaps fitness she should improve off of that, because she was travelling really strongly coming into the straight, and it almost looked to be a case of how far, but she actually fell in over the final stages, so she did stop a bit quick, and maybe she doesn't want much further than 1200, but she's still a nice type moving forward. D'Amber missed narrowly, hit the line really, really well. Loved the way that she finished off, and this was the race that Jason Whiting got suspended on. It was really late. I was watching the steward's vision of where the actual suspension occurred. I reckon it must have been 5 or 10 metres before the post. It was literally just before they crossed the line. So he's a bit stiff, not from getting the suspension, but just how late it was in the race. Rogues Point, you touched on, great run. Mocha Dreams going well, and Mistrakova was the recipient of D'Amber's interference. Was only beaten length. I think she's tracking along quite well. But one of my biggest follows of the meeting, though, is the 7th horse, Memory Parade. This horse has led a lot of races, but went back to near last on the fence, rounded them up and finished off as well as anything. Ran home in the fastest closing splits. Big follow, Memory Parade.
Could not agree more. Clearly a race dominated by on-speed types. Memory Parade was enormous yesterday.
And actually, Starring Knight, who actually split Mistrakova and Memory Parade, he's never been a first-up horse, but he loomed the winner on straightening, and he's a big boy. I think he'll improve off of that just in terms of fitness and stripping fitter, tightening up from that run. He was only beaten a length and a half. I think he's in for a good prep.
Well, race number 5 was the Belmont Oaks. This was over the 2,000 metres.
Magic second, Cruise to Rio third, and going up now on the outside here, Love and War and Petrushka. So the sparks are flying, the two fancies coming together. On the outside, Petrushka comes at Love and War at the 200. Love and War digs in. Pike goes to work on Petrushka, and Lyrical Angel and Antique Queen are running on behind them, but Petrushka reaches the lead. It's Petrushka. She's starting to edge away clear late in the Oaks, and Pike wins his 6th. Goes home. Too Good Petrushka beat Love and War, Antique Queen or Lyrical Angel in a photo for the minor place. They were followed.
Well, there you have it. It was always billed as a race in two, and that's the way it turned out.
Absolutely, and I think tactically it played out as many expected as well. Willie Pike had the back of Love and War and Pat Carberry, and from there, very nice, progressive 3-year-old filly, Petrushka, was able to get the job done late. Interestingly, Love and War, I thought she was massive in defeat. The way she over-raced her out, I just don't think she's a 2,000-metre horse. And when you consider the fact that Willie Pike, his filly, relaxed beautifully, followed her every move and still only beat her by 3/4 of a length. I thought Love and War was very brave in defeat, and next preparation when we see her again, kept anywhere between 12 and a mile. She's a really nice filly in the making, but Petrushka, clearly a filly that appreciated getting out to 2,000 metres. I suspect she goes to the Belmont Classic of 2,200 metres in a couple of weeks' time, and it would surprise me if she wasn't your favourite in that 3-year-old feature in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Really nice win, settled a dream, just looks a nice staying type who
should be hard to beat. She should come back a nice 4-year-old as well. Love and War, I agree. I did think she got quite keen through the early stages, but it wasn't in the stewards report. And Pat Carberry, I don't think, mentioned it in the beaten jockeys either. I think, but it has still had a lovely run. So perhaps it was just deceiving how strongly she was travelling. But she had every chance in the run, and the way she stuck on over the late stages for a horse who I don't think is a genuine 2,000 metre horse, as you said as well. I think she's got a really nice future. Next preparation. The other horses had their chance. Lyrical Angel was a sharp improver with a better run in transit. You'd think the 2200 would be okay for her. She would probably push on. Antique Queen, you'd think would definitely push on. I thought she hit the line really, really well. Cruz de Rio was a little bit stiff, was held up at different stages in the straight, was beaten less than 2 lengths. I thought that was a nice enough effort to progress on to the next race too. But I think from the top 5 here, I wouldn't be surprised if 4 of them push on to the next race.
Absolutely. It's never going to be an overly strong edition of the Belmont Classic, and I think we have the beaten jockeys to listen from yesterday's Belmont Oaks.
Holly Watson, Claire Ann.
Yeah, it's just a little bit tough for her.
Jason Whiting, Rivercrest Magic.
Yeah, struggling a fair way at home, probably a bit outclassed.
Thank you. Jordan Turner, I'm on.
Yeah, look, the run was okay. There's probably a Class 1 in her soon.
Lucy Fiore, Hot Like Chili.
Just the speed was very genuine. It's probably just a bit too quick for her. Throughout, got a bit tired. It's probably a prep away.
Thank you. Joey has a party in Wife Says Yes.
Yeah, she hasn't showed too much this far, so they just had a bit of throw at the stumps, and she didn't disgrace herself. I think she'll have no problem staying, so she might push on to the next one.
Thank you. Troy Turner, Cruz de Rio.
Yeah, she sort of travelled pretty strong in the race. She sort of finished off the race pretty well, I thought.
Thank you. Steve Parnham, Lyrical Angel.
Very happy with her effort today. She's still very mature. They kept finding the line. I think she's going to come back good next prep.
Thank you. Chris Parnham, Antique Queen.
Nice run. Didn't jump at all, but got a long way back. It was good, solid tempo, and relaxed nice and hit the line good. The other 2 were just a bit better.
Pat Carberry, Love and War.
Had a lovely run throughout. Travelled nice. She was quite anxious before the race, which is not normally her. Thought she stuck it out well, but the winner was too good for us on the day.
Okay, beaten jockeys there from the Belmont Oaks yesterday. You're listening to Racing Rewind. Time for a break, and we'll be back reviewing the Aquanita Stakes next.
Quest is over on the inside, followed by Snip of Gossip, Idyllic Ruler. Further back, Man's or Magic, We Rate You, but Cool Memory sailed away in the Aquanita by the 250. It's Cool Memory in full flight. Out by 4, Idyllic Ruler, Dreamtime Gene, Stylish Lord, We Rate You. Man's or Magic further back. Cool Memory, though, with a big lead. 100 left to go. Out by 3, running on is We Rate You late when it's all over, but it's Cool Memory all the way. Cool Memory won the Aquanita by a length to the fast finishing We Rate You. Idyllic Ruler 3rd, followed by Man's.
Okay, the Aquanita Stakes. Tell us all about it, Locke.
All honours to Joey Has a Party, I think. Great ride out in front. He got it very, very cheap, and he was able to recognise that down the back straight and just made sure that he got on his bike early enough to not really give anything else a chance. You could see he was a length or 2 in front of Dreamtime Gene as they were rounding out the home corner, and from there, kick clear, and he was just never getting beat with the way this race was run.
Are we listening to the beaten jockeys? Let's have a listen.
Jason Whiting, Playing Quest.
Yeah, just a one batter, sort of straightened up. I thought he had a little bit more to offer, but he's just a bit of a one pace.
Thank you. Chris Parnham, We Rate You.
Yeah, solid run. Got a fair way back and took a while to settle over the 2,000, but yeah, good to see him sort of show that he can stay, and I think the next one will be hard to beat.
Thank you. Steve Parnham, Stylish Lord.
Probably ended up closer than I wanted to be, really. He's probably uncomfortable being in that spot, and I didn't really have a horse to move into the race. He whacked away in the run home, but he probably is at the end of the campaign.
Thank you. Holly Watson, Idyllic Ruler.
Yeah, huge run. Obviously, he just sort of missed the start, and I think if he's box head, he makes it very cheeky.
Thank you. Lucy Fiore, Dreamtime Gene.
Yeah, he ran a good race. He just kept whacking away late. I think he's probably better off leading over a bit shorter of a trip, but overall it was a good run.
St Porter, Man's a Magic.
Yeah, he went good. Just tempo related. Just got too far back and had too much of a job.
There we have it, the beaten jockeys for the Aquanita Stakes. Lockie's touched on the winner, Cool Memory. Yeah, I don't think 2,000 metres is probably going to be his go moving forward. I think he's going to be a really nice miler in preparations to come. He's a pretty serious horse when you look at what he's done this prep. He had a 7-week freshen up, and then he had about 7 runs. He's finished in
7th, then second, fifth in the Raconteur over 14, third. That was when did they go lickety split? It was the Raconteur.
That was in the Raconteur.
Yes. Then he pretty much everything out of that race was disappointing in the Belmont Guineas.
Apart from him,
he ran a tough third, beaten a length and a half, then wins over 2,000. He's pretty versatile, pretty nice horse. I'll be looking forward to seeing what he does next prep. I did think We Rate You was enormous, though. I think you can make a serious case that if he didn't get that keen and if he didn't have to get as far back, he probably would have gone close there yesterday. He was sort of under double wraps, Chris trying to get him to settle, and when he eventually did, he was really effective late. His last 100 metres in particular, he just ripped late ground off Cool Memory, and as I said off the top of the show, the first 1,400 metres of both the Oaks and the Aquanita, comparing them, the Oaks was about 9 lengths faster. So Cool Memory did get it really soft, which didn't suit We Rate You there yesterday. But I would dare say, going to the 2,200 metres, I would just about be picking him over Petrushka.
Well, it's interesting because Petrushka had...
Petrushka.
Yes.
There we go, third time lucky.
He's getting there. We've had to give him a few lessons in our Russian over the few ad breaks, but no, it's interesting because Willie Pike just gave that filly every conceivable, whereas We Rate You, things didn't exactly go his way yesterday with the way that race was run. So it's going to be an intriguing battle. As I said earlier, I'd be surprised if the filly wasn't the favourite in a couple of weeks' time, but I think
she'll be favourite.
I do agree that it will be closer than perhaps the market might think. The Belmont.
Yeah, I have no doubt she'll start favourite, but I'd be, if the race was next week, I'd be tipping We Rate You. Ideally, Ruler, really good run, stepping up to the staying trip, missed the kick by a couple of lengths, finished off particularly well, so he would progress to the next one, I'd say.
Yep, he'll be going very close next start, I'd say.
Man's or Magic was probably only fair, really. Like Clint said there, that probably the tempo didn't suit, but look, We Rate You was behind him and finished off really well, so I think Man's or Magic, whilst he was a Class 1 winner first up, he just might not be as probably the class-wise, probably not quite as high as some of those first couple. Stylish Lord had a bit of a tricky run in transit. I tipped him from the yard yesterday. He looked outstanding off the back of a strong win, but it's probably one of my least favourite positions in racing when a horse is third the breeze, having to chase without cover, but still a couple lengths off them, carting up the rest of the field. And whilst they didn't go quick, I just didn't think that would really suited him. He was an effective winner the start prior when ridden with cover and quite patiently in the second half of the field, so I think that is his go. But in saying that, he was under pressure a fair way out off a steady tempo, so it probably is end of prep as well. But not a huge amount to report outside of that, but I will be on We Rate You next start.
It'll be interesting to see what actually goes. We Rate You, Idyllic Ruler, they'll head to a Belmont Classic. Man's or Magic, he's a winner at 2,000 metres. I agree with you. I thought he was fair yesterday, but we saw him ridden for speed in a farcically run race last start, so perhaps he's just a little more a one batter.
Yeah,
and
he doesn't have the sharpness as a We Rate You.
Exactly. Next start, Cool Memory isn't in the Belmont Classic. Perhaps a Man's or Magic takes up the running and he can be an improver.
Antique Queen was a really good run in the Oaks. Would you say he'd ride We Rate You over her? Still?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I'll get on the phone to Mickey J then.
Race number 7, the Bisley Workwear Handicap, and this was over the 1,400.
Over on the inside, travelling third category 3, War Gem Handy. Speed Dreams covered ground, Best Mood behind it. About to move off heels and come to the outside with its run. And back behind them, Zero Demerits coming to the 250. Vassilieve over on the inside. About to be tackled here by Birdie Eagle. Here comes Best Mood winding up. Speed Dream in the middle of them though, with 100 to go and Speed Dream. And here comes Fluoro Neuro. Fluoro Neuro coming down the outside out after Speed Dream. Speed Dream's in front. Fluoro Neuro diving. They went to it. Speed Dream. Speed Dream ends a long run of out. Speed Dream has just won from the fast finishing Fluoro Neuro and Best Move. Vaseline.
Yes, it was Speed Dream beating Fluoro Neuro. Best Mood back in third, and for fourth, Vaseline.
Speed Dream, I think this was a great result for Rolly Piercy and Jason Whiting. No one was disappointed about this. Put the blinkers back on this horse, and interestingly, they may have just tricked the horse into a win. He was 3 deep, no cover throughout. Had to do it the hard way, and he just kept on punching. There were a couple horses that loomed large late in Fluoro Neuro and Best Mood, but timing is everything in racing, and thankfully for Speed Dream, he was able to salute the judge for the first time in 777 days.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 deep the trip, and the next winner, Final Siren, was 3 wide, no cover as well, so perhaps that was the place to be to some respect, because the horses that were on the back of Speed Dream yesterday were Best Mood, who ran third, and Fluoro Neuro, who ran second. So it was a 3 wide type of race. Leader stuck on well, considering, so they mustn't have gone overly fast. There was no last 600 time, I noticed, for probably the last half of the day.
Last 3 races.
Last 3, yeah, so it does make it tricky in that sense. But
usually they have a little comment in the steward's report. I'll actually just go back.
I don't think I saw anything.
No, nothing.
So it does make it tricky just in terms of working out a rough guide on the actual tempo of the race, but it did look to the eye that they went pretty steady, and probably why it was a 3 wide type of race in the moving line. But the leader in Vasilev, who was making his WA debut, was pretty good. Was sticking on to run third. Beats it only a length, but I'm still keen to be following Fluoro Neuro throughout the winter. I know his racing pattern always needs luck, but I think now that he's hit form, he can stay in it, and he's pretty effective late, and he goes on a wet track as well. So even if there is more rain in the coming weeks, which we expect, I think he can still be effective. Best Mood went around favourite at $2.10, and it was a nice enough run. Was only beaten half a length into third, but I thought was probably still only fair in some respects. I tracked the horse who was 3 wide, no cover, couldn't get over the top of him, and the horse that was on Best Mood's back, Fluoro Neuro, got over the top of it. So probably as in terms of a $2.10 favourite, may have only been fair.
Catch These Hands, he was well back in the field, and unfortunately we can't see the final 600 metre splits, but I thought he caught the eye. If he wasn't the fastest last 600 of that race, I dare say he would have been pretty close to it. So he might be a cheeky one at a price next start.
Yep. On to race number 8, the Studco Handicap, and this event was over the 1,000 metres.
City a half a length on Ginnivan working. On the outside, Final Siren. Never better than 3 deep in running. City Angels on the inside of King's Honour. Then Capital Flight behind them looking for the way clear. Storm Chaser. Nahachi Beads are coming down the outside. At the 200 now, Ginnivan and Lexington City. On the outside of those, Final Siren. Ginnivan hits the lead. Final Siren keeps coming. It's Ginnivan and Final Siren. Hard hands and heels. Final Siren, Ginnivan. They'll go to it. And Final Siren, I thought, a nose. I thought it was Final Siren, an absolute whisker for Pike over Ginnivan in a very tight photo. The luckless Storm Chaser behind those, close up with...
Yes, a good win. The Final Siren is a beauty, isn't he? Now 5 from 8 with that victory yesterday.
Absolutely. Clearly, he just learnt a lot out of the last start experience, and perhaps being kept in open air yesterday as well. Last start, he tucked in behind the speed and looked all at sea, but with the benefit of that run and just being kept in open air, we saw the best of Final Siren yesterday. Had to do it the tradesman way, settled 3 deep, no cover, outside the second horse in Ginnivan, and there wasn't much between them on the line. But Final Siren, my understanding is that he goes out for a break now and then comes back under the care of Beck Bayliss, and he's clearly a horse that we can be following throughout the summer carnival.
Yeah, I have a slight theory about him now as well, without knowing... does Michael Lane train in sand, heavy sand, or does he train...
No, not really. There is sand at his property, but he does most of his fast work at Bunbury.
Okay.
So there goes your theory.
No, well, I remember, I'm pretty sure it may be a different training environment to what he was. I wasn't exactly sure why or how, but I think it might be a different training environment to what he had before. But if it is in sand, and Lamarty would be able to attest this as well, the old Lindsay Smith theory with the second up, the first run, usually, I think with changing any horse's training environment can have an effect, especially when it's mid-prep, and if he was left with Michael Lane, then 2 weeks later raced, and then 2 weeks after that, he's going to show natural improvement from being in the system that little bit. The fact that he was a little bit dour, slow out, it's sort of not that big of a surprise that he improved so much second run in the system. And by all reports, having interviewed Rebecca Bayliss pre-race for the Race WA yesterday, he took a little bit to settle into Michael's new stable as well.
I would agree to that with some extent, but I think we've seen the proof in the pudding previously where the horse, come race day, even under the care of Beck Bayliss, with a slightly different run in comparison to what he's used to, he's just green. He was just lost. So I think in some respect, there's probably more to it than just a change of environment.
Yeah, perhaps. I just still don't think that maybe the edge was taken off him a little bit more the previous start, because just the way he travelled was just a different horse yesterday. Perhaps just settled in a little bit more, accustomed to everything. I don't know. Perhaps there's something in it, but he's a pretty nice horse either way. Final siren. I still think Ginnivan was a terrific effort for a horse that usually improves so much on the rail. For him to show that from the breeze is another string to his bow in a certain respect. So I think he's a pretty nice horse. The first 3 horses across the line were all 3-year-olds, which is no surprise there. Storm Chaser was a bit unlucky as well. Don't know if he would have won the race because he was beaten 2 in the end, but he was held up in the straight, flashed late, first up, no trial. I think he's in, well, we already know he's a serious horse. I think he's in for another good campaign. I didn't expect Lexington City to lead. I tipped this horse thinking that with all the speed, he'd probably tuck in just behind, but geez, he was lightning fast out of the machine and stuck on really, really well. Outside of that, King's Honour has had a pretty consistent campaign, and Pooley actually ran a better race than he was probably entitled to, because he's a one-paced horse, missed the start, settled last, and whilst he was beaten nearly 6 lengths, the way he worked through the line was pretty good for a horse like him.
Yeah, exactly right. It was an on-speed dominated race, and this is the type of race you'd love to see, the split slate, and then you can somewhat find a horse to follow, knowing that even like a horse like Beads was settled last in running, finished 8th, but was only beaten 4.5. I think that type of run reads better on paper.
Final event of the day, the final tickets to Christmas in July, 13th and 20th of July, 2024, handicap over the mile.
As they turn the corner, our Rocky Bay, the leader from Mr. Mount Walker, Butley, that infuriated Gage Roads going for runs over near the inside. Wonder Weapon gets into the clear, down the outside as well. Celebrity Witness and Secessional is getting right up on the rail. 120 to go. Secessional hugging the fence, goes to the lead now from Wonder Weapon, and Secessional comes away. Sensational, too good. Brilliant rails hugging ride to beat Wonder Weapon. Gage Roads might be third. Nod and Smile from long way back was next home with.
Yeah, well, there you have it. It was sensational, beating Wonder Weapon, Gage Roads and Nod and Smile way back, about 4 lengths back in 4th.
Nice win this. Interestingly, I asked Grant the question post-race, had it been a little frustrating we hadn't seen this horse win on a Saturday so far? It's just taken him a little bit to figure it all out, I think. That was his 10th start. In saying that, still has won 3 times, so clearly a progressive type, but I think everything just fell perfectly into place there. Yesterday he settled 3 back the fence in behind a hot tempo, and when they all fanned coming into the home corner, Brandon Louis on our Rocky Bay rolled off the fence, and it just meant that Gage Roads infuriated, and then Sensational was able to get up on the inside, found the line really, really nicely, and could be a horse that improves out over a little bit further as well. So a nice 3-year-old and a 3-year-old by Sessions as well. So perhaps will improve on a really rain-affected track in the months to come.
Turns out winners, doesn't he? Sessions stands at Oakland Park for $8,800. So
these are the facts.
Yeah. Can't dispute them.
Wonder Weapon continues to go well. She's been looking really well, racing really well, hasn't run a bad race. This preparation probably just had her momentum impeded slightly on straightening, but when she found some clear galloping room, she finished off really nicely. So she's just a really good bread and butter type of horse who should continue on. Gage Roads has been pretty good his last couple of starts. He's had a couple of different homes now, I think, Gage Roads, but Steve Wolf appears to have him going particularly well, and he actually looked outstanding yesterday. Sometimes those sort of great southern horses this time of year can look really wintry, but he's looking in great shape, Gage Roads. And Nod and Smile came from 16th of 16 to run a fast finishing 4th. I thought that was a particularly big effort. Outside of that, I found it a tricky race to dissect, because reviewing this meeting, the previous 2 races were won by horses 3 wide, no cover, and it appeared they were better suited down the middle part of the track, and whether Sensational was just an even bigger win than it appeared on paper, or whether the track was just that fair, I just found it a tricky race because the margin spread was huge.
All right, that's it. That's the meeting. Let's take a break, come back with horses to follow.
On Racing Rewind, it is time for the boys to look back and determine who are the black bookers, the ones to be on next start, the horses to follow.
Quickly, boys.
For me, nickel play out of the 2-year-old race, Probity, like Michael, Rogues Point, in Broome and Memory Parade.
Daytona Pete, I like the Steve Wolf trained runner. Wind of the Line goes without saying. I think Filthy Habits will be winning a race or two this prep. And we rate you in the Belmont Classic.
Okay, we've got Crashane Warren's tips here for Calgary. Race 4, number 1 Debonair. Race 5, number 9 Duo Muso. Race 6, number 2 Ryewood. He tipped that last week, his best. But his best is race 7, number 2 Sacred Attire. So you want him again, 4-1-5-9-6-2-7-2 for Crashane up there on the Goldfields. Freezing cold up there, but they're going to have a big day, big day.
$4.80 for Crashane's best bet. Bit of value there.
Secret Attire, last start winner as well for Tash, wasn't it?
Yep.
Thanks for coming in today. Thanks to Sophie Stone for all the hard work. Enjoy the rest of your day today and your week.